Okay guys, the fly I'm going to do is Ace of Spades. Nice wee lure for the start of the season. For brownies, in fact I would go as far as to say I would like them to give me a better fly than this for catching brown trout in the first few weeks of the season. Now, this one's tied with the original chenille body. I've tried a wee variant here using some chenille, some frets. Entirely up to you, but the rest of it stayed the same. So the name Ace of Spades comes from two different points. So the fact that it's as black as the Ace of Spades, and if you look at the tail is supposed to mimic the ace in a deck of cards. It's up to you, whatever you think, but black as the Ace of Spades works for the hook. And the device is a Kamasan B175 size 8, just a normal shanked hook. You could use a 170, you could use a full and mill all-purpose, whatever you fancy. We used to tie them in size 8 long shanks back in the day, but I've kind of toned it down a wee bit. I don't normally fish lures just as big as that anymore. So thread, just a black thread, 6 or an 8/0. Then take your thread down the body, down the shank, touching turns until you get to a line and a point in line with the point of the hook. Cut away your waste. Now the rib for the fly could be oval tinsel, silver wire, even flat silver tinsel. So that's going to be used to hold down the wing. So tie in a piece of silver. For the body, I'm just going to use the normal chenille. This is a kind of finer chenille for the smaller sized hook. For the bigger hooks you get chenille, it's a bit more flocked, it's a bit fluffier, okay? Anyway, so that you're not tying that big heavy size in, what you're better doing is stripping the fluff. I just use my teeth off of that, exposes the white core. You can tie that in there, and that just keeps it a bit slimmer when you're tying the fly. So then take your thread up to the near the eye, and then take your chenille and wind a nice wee touch and turn body, 5 or 6 turns up to the eye. Take your thread, cross over and tie that in. So turn behind the chenille, turn onto the hook, cut that away. Leave your wire sticking out the back, going to use that to tie in your tail and wing. Now, the feather itself we're going to use just a black hen hackle. Now this fly was adapted by a guy called Dave Collier from New Zealand flies called Matuka style flies, which used the wing, the feather down there to make the wing and the tail at the same time. So these flies were used in the big lochs and lakes in New Zealand, the likes of Rotorua, Tanganyika, to catch the big rainbows and browns that are in that loch, in the lochs there. Now, I've not got any wee Matuka parrots because that's where they got the feathers from, kicking about near me. So black hen hackles it's going to be. So this is a natural black hen, and what you do is you take 2 feathers that sit next to each other to the appropriate size for the fly you're going to tie, and you're going to strip the bottom off of one. These feathers curve, so you'll have a pair, one curving in, one curving out, and you take the bottom off of each one. So the one facing you, take the bottom, the one this side, take the other side. So what I like to do is just sit and prepare a few. If I'm going to tie half a dozen flies, I'll make up wee pairs of wings. So you can see how they curve differently. But when you bring them together, they're opposites. And they come together to form the tail there, and then the body hackle, if you like, body wing on the top, okay? So just stroke that back. You should have your line is there. The line is just there where the feather becomes the tail. Is going to be your tying in point for your tinsel, which is there, and then the length is the rest of the body. So stroke the fibres back, making sure the hackles sit on top nice and straight. Just take a minute to tidy it up, make sure it's sitting nice. And then a pinching loop between your fingers, tie those down and just check, still sitting on top, sitting in line, that's fine. So I'm going to cut away this waste and just going to throw a half hitch on here just to hold that. Now, take your feather, make sure it stays on top and just expose the tying in point here where the wing and the tail meet. And that's where you're going to start tying it down. So again, line it up, stroke your feathers till it's already the right place, and then take your silver wire and trap that tail in. Okay, just check that, that's looking okay. And then take your rib up through the moistened fibres, they should stick up. So just take it through to make a nice wee rib, going up through the fibres. Just pull them at the rod, move them about till you get where you want. Make sure your hackle doesn't pull down the side, and put about 4 or 5 turns depending on the size of the fly or the rib. Now that'll trap the hackle fibres down. So bring your thread up, bring your thread over, lock it in, put a bend in it. So bind that tinsel in and then just helicopter it to break it. Just check your line, that's okay. So that creates that kind of dark silhouette that makes the fly so good, I think. Now the throat, it's natural guinea fowl. It's always a throat hackle. So get some fibres, pull them out, tear them off, and tie them in a bunch round the throat. I usually do it in a couple of bunches. So loose turn just to hold, spread them out a wee bit, throw a couple of turns on. Same again at the other side, another bunch, tear that off, put your fibres there, hold them with your finger, couple of turns, have a wee look. That's not bad. I'm not a fan of throat hackles, I think they're just a bit of a mess, to be honest. Never seem to get them right. So anyway, cut away the waste, watching you don't cut your thread. Tidy all that kind of raggy bits up. Now you can always add a bit more to the throat if you want, another bunch of fibres. I'm just going to leave that at that. And then the overwing, which is this bronze mallard. Now again, you can put it in as 2 slips, like that. Put 1 slip at either side, a bit like forming a dabbler style fly. I just like to put a slip on and wrap it round and sort of cloak it in the same manner. So a bit on there. Now don't worry if it all splits, because it's always going to split. This is not going to hold together. And the first cast you make with it anyway is going to spread these fibres. So again, another slip on the side. Tie that in. Cut away your waste. So have a wee look. It's not bad. They say these are fishing flies, they're a wee bit rough and ready. If you want to put more bronze mallard on, because I think that's a good part of the colour, I like the colour of that. Just put another bit on the top. Create a nice wing. And then tidy up with your thread to make a nice bold head, tying in all the loose ends and the roots. Bit of varnish. Come in with your whip finish. do a couple of whip finishes just to make sure it's not going to go. Makes the fly that bit more durable. Cut that away. And then once that's dry, or give it another coat and it'll dry, and then get a second coat once it's actually dry, and that'll give you a lovely, nice slick head for your fly. So as I say, Ace of Spades, Matuka style fly, fish it slow and deep, start of the season, pretty much guarantee you a bit of action with the overwintered brownies.